The 7 deadly sins of man: greed, wrath, lust, sloth, gluttony, envy, and pride. Known as the 7 vices that spur other sins and further immoral behavior. In my last video, we covered how many different protagonists in the GTA universe represent one of the 7 deadly sins, and in today's video, we'll be covering all the rest. Starting with wrath. Wrath is defined as a strong feeling of hatred or resentment with a desire for vengeance. And the man representing wrath in today's episode is the stone-cold killer Claude from GTA 3. Claude is a calm, cool-headed, and serious man who seems to take everything in his stride and is practically emotionless in any circumstance, save for the occasional smirk or glare. He won't hesitate to follow orders from his superiors as long as he gets compensated for his work. Catalina claims that she betrayed Claude because of his lack of ambition, but Claude works, kills, and ascends through the ranks of the Liberty City underworld during the game, all in the name of exacting revenge. It's unclear if Claude truly values or is loyal to anyone because he never expresses it. As long as he is paid and it will get him closer to getting revenge, he will work for and kill anyone, as evidenced by him killing Kenji Kaizen. He even fights on multiple sides of gang wars, working with the Mafia, the Diablos, the Yakuza, and the Yardis, completely without hesitation, and goes as far as to orchestrate a gang war between the Yakuza and the Colombian cartel, along with Donald Love. His spiteful nature is further displayed when he abandons Miguel to Asuka Kaizen's torture in retaliation for Miguel's involvement in Catalina's betrayal. Throughout the game, Claude remains true to his mission of finding and taking revenge on Catalina for leaving him for dead. It's also clear that Claude is primarily out for himself and will use people for his own ends or benefits until he no longer sees a reason to use them anymore, which more often than not ends with Claude killing them, which is why Claude gets the sin of wrath. Next up is the sin of lust, which is described as an excessive desire for sexual gratification. Which brings us to none other than the ladies' man of Liberty City himself, Luis Fernando Lopez. Luis's job as a nightclub bouncer in one of the most famous clubs in Liberty City has given him the chance to mingle and sleep with many attractive, well-known women. Luis has been sexually involved with several females mentioned throughout the game, including Mrs. Adams, Luis's 8th grade teacher who he slept with while he was in her class around age 14. She is possibly his first, as Armando calls Luis a victim of child abuse. Danny Lupazella, daughter of the Lupazella crime family Don, who threatened to get her daddy to chop his you-know-what off if or when the relationship ended. During the mission Blog This, Luis tells Gracie Ancelotti, who is interested in him, that he will not date mob daughters again because of this experience. Joni, a close co-worker of Luis at Mason at 9, who appears to have a friends with benefits relationship with him. Monique, a girl Luis was dating for a while until he was caught sleeping with her roommate. However, she does not hold a grudge against Luis and hooks up with him again, until she is caught red-handed by her boyfriend Vic. Not that one, who was thought to be out of town at the time. Daisy Cash Coos, a British socialite living in Liberty City who once slept with Luis and avoided him afterwards, even though Luis contacted her a few times. She later recruits his help when a famous actor that she cheated on her boyfriend with, Chris Hunt, is about to humiliate her. Poppy Mitchell, just another famous celebrity Luis has been with. Most fans would also recognize her from that one mission in GTA 5. Margot, a girl Luis dated for over a year by the beginning of 2007. She was a needy, psychologically disturbed ex-girlfriend. She makes 2 attempts at suicide after Luis turns her down. The first time she tries to take sleeping pills and painkillers, she fails because Luis gets her to a hospital in time. The second time she succeeds and ends up dead after jumping off a 3-story pier. After drawing some unwelcome attention from passerbys who thought he had shoved her, Luis leaves the area, and that's the end of that. Carmen Ortiz, a bowhand woman that Luis was involved with in 2007 and calls quote-unquote nasty. Armando Torres and Enrique Bardes were also involved with her, the former still dating her. In an eerie coincidence, she is also a potential girlfriend for Nico Bellic in GTA 4.
Hey, we met on the internet, didn't we? LoveMe.net? I'm Nico.
Hey Nico, pleased to meet you. This is Carmen.
Kay Hartman, a random girl Luis sleeps with in the Mason at 9 bathroom in the Mission Boulevard Baby. Luis also has the opportunity to dance and sleep with multiple random women in Mason at 9 if the dance minigame is successfully completed. So I think after all that info, you kind of get the point. This man is a straight dog, and that is why Luis Lopez gets the sin of lust. Next up, we have the sin of pride, which is an excessive belief in one's own abilities. And the candidate for pride in today's video is Carl CJ Johnson from GTA San Andreas. CJ's journey from the streets of Los Santos to a powerful figure in the criminal underworld is marked by moments where his pride manifests in different ways. CJ's pride is evident in the reluctance to accept help or guidance from others. Despite facing numerous challenges and dangers, he often insists on handling situations alone, believing in his own abilities above all else. This stubbornness stems from a desire to prove himself both to others and to himself as a capable and independent individual. Additionally, CJ's pride is closely tied to his sense of loyalty and honor. He takes great pride in his family, particularly his late mother and brother, and is fiercely protective of his remaining loved ones. This pride drives him to seek vengeance against those who betray or harm his family, demonstrating his unwavering commitment to upholding his own code of ethics. CJ's pride is also evident in his ambition and desire for success. Throughout the game, he constantly seeks to elevate his status and reputation within the criminal underworld. Carl Johnson can be interpreted as prideful through his independence, loyalty, ambition, and determination. While his pride drives him to achieve great things, it also sometimes blinds him to the potential consequences of his actions, ultimately shaping his tumultuous journey throughout the game. A lot can be said about Carl Johnson, but at least he lived up to his full potential, unlike the protagonist that represents this next sin. The sin of sloth is described to be a severe lack of motivation and potential. In my last video, I mentioned how Johnny Klebitz had one of the biggest downfalls in the GTA series, and the same could be said about Victor Vance from GTA Vice City Stories. Victor Vance is a character that showed immense potential. As a soldier turned criminal in pursuit of a better life for his dysfunctional family, Victor embodies resilience and determination. However, his journey is marked by tragedy and circumstance, ultimately leading to the squandering of that potential. Despite his honorable intentions, he becomes embroiled in the criminal underworld of Vice City, a decision driven by necessity rather than choice. Throughout the game, he becomes entangled in a web of deceit orchestrated by those closest to him, including his own brother Lance Vance. Anyone who's played Vice City Stories would know that Lance is a terrible influence on his brother, consistently getting him into compromising situations throughout the game. Victor's inherent goodness is overshadowed by the corrupting influence of power and greed of the people that surround him. Even though at the end of Vice City Stories, Victor vows to stay away from drugs and the criminal lifestyle, just 2 years later he is seen back in the game alongside his brother Lance at the beginning of GTA Vice City, looking a lot worse for wear than he did 2 years prior, appearance-wise. Victor's downfall is sealed by his inability to break free from the cycle of violence and corruption. Despite his best efforts to escape Vice City's grip, he is consumed by the very forces he sought to overcome. Which is why Vic Vance gets the sin of sloth. Next up is the sin of envy, which is more than just simple jealousy because it includes the belief that another's excellence or blessings lessens one's own. Which leads me to our next candidate, Niko Bellic. Niko's experiences in Liberty City provide ample evidence of his envious tendencies. From the outset, Niko's arrival in Liberty City is motivated by a desire for a better life, symbolized by his cousin Roman's promises of wealth and success. However, upon his arrival, Niko quickly realizes that Roman's claims were exaggerated as he finds himself struggling to make ends meet in a city filled with opulence and extravagance. The American dream that he was promised turns out to be more of an American nightmare, and this stark contrast between his expectations and reality fuels Niko's sense of envy towards those who seem to effortlessly attain the success he desires. Throughout the game, Niko encounters characters who embody the lifestyle he covers. Whether it's the corrupt politicians, the wealthy businessmen, or the glamorous celebrities, Niko is constantly exposed to individuals who flaunt their wealth and power. His interactions with these characters often highlight his feelings of inadequacy and resentment as he grapples with the disparity between his own circumstances and theirs. Niko's interactions with his former comrades from the Yugoslav wars further illustrate his envy. Characters like Dmitry Raskolov and Ray Bulgarin have achieved a level of power and influence that Niko covers, but their success comes to a moral cost that Niko is unwilling to pay. Despite his reservations, Nico can't help but feel envious of their accomplishments, highlighting the internal conflict between his desire for success and his moral principles. His experiences in Liberty City expose him to a world of wealth and power that he desires but cannot obtain without compromising his values. Through his interactions with various characters and his own internal struggles, Nico's envy is laid bare, serving as a cautionary tale about the dangers of coveting what others possess. So before this video ends, we still have 2 more deadly sins to cover, but unfortunately I've run out of GTA protagonists, well, at least the ones people care about. So for the next 2 sins, I'm just going to associate them with the characters who I've already mentioned previously in this video, and see where they fit in. So let's start off with gluttony. Gluttony is described as an overindulgence in food or drink. And out of all the protagonists I've mentioned in this video, I think gluttony would probably suit best with CJ, specifically Fat CJ. Now, I know that technically CJ's weight is completely dependent on the player, but he's the only protagonist that can gain that amount of weight, so it only makes sense that he gets the sin of gluttony. And last but not least, we have the sin of greed, which is an intense and selfish desire for something. And there are actually a couple protagonists that I think could fit into this one, but let's start off with Claude. Like I mentioned earlier, Claude is primarily out for himself. Throughout the events of the game, he has one main objective, and that is to get his revenge by any means necessary, which means that he will often only use people for his own personal gain. As long as he gets paid or gets what he wants, he's willing to kill or destroy anything in his path. And one of the characteristics of greed is getting what you want with little care for what you have to do to get it. You could also maybe say that Vic Vance was greedy, considering that he seemingly left the criminal life at the end of Vice City Stories but is right back at it in GTA Vice City, probably because he needed some money or got consumed by drugs. And the last protagonist I wanted to mention for the sin of greed is Niko Bellic, specifically in the deal ending of GTA 4. In the deal ending of GTA 4, Jimmy Pegorino asked Niko to conduct a heroin deal with Dmitry Raskolov, which Pegorino will pay Niko $250,000 for. Niko is reluctant at first, but Roman encourages Niko to conduct the deal. Kate, however, urges Niko not to do the deal, claiming that he should not sacrifice his principles for money or take his chances with Raskolov. Which is exactly what he does if you choose this ending, and it leads to the death of Roman. Personally, I prefer the revenge ending of GTA 4, but the deal ending definitely fits the darker theme of the game, brilliantly showcasing the tragic circumstances that can be caused by the sin of greed. But anyways, that wraps up the second part of the 7 deadly sins of Grand Theft Auto. If you made it this far, I just want to say a huge thank you for watching this video, and if you haven't, be sure to check out the first part, and I will see you all in the next video. Take care and have a great day.